Back in the early 80s, Cecil Williams was invited to go down to Perkins School of Theology, and he had a group of us from the ensemble go and some of the staff members, and he paired the ensemble members up together for staying in rooms together, black and white. And so my partner was Jane, a white girl. And shortly after we arrived, Jane and I decided to go to Woolworths shopping. And so we went to Woolworths, and we were just walking and looking at things, and we happened to look down at the end of the aisle, and there was a bunch of white folks. It was like maybe 9, just looking at us, staring at us from each side of the aisle. And so we didn't think too much of it. And we looked down the other way. The same thing was going on down at the other end of the aisle. The people were staring at us. And so we continued to do our little shopping, and then we ended up leaving Woolworths, walking down the street. Traffic almost comes to a halt, looking at us, staring at us, walking, black and white, walking down the street. And actually one car even ran into the back of another car. And so, wow, okay. So then we decided to go and get something to eat. We went to a bar where I ordered a hamburger and some fries. Jane didn't order anything. So I'm waiting 15 minutes for my burger and fries. And eventually I talked Jane into ordering something to eat. So she decides to get the same thing I'm getting. So she orders hamburger and fries. Her order comes shortly thereafter, maybe 15 minutes or so. She gets her hamburger and fries, and I'm still waiting for mine. So I asked the guy behind the counter who I placed the order with, well, where's mine? Maybe what you gave Jane is my hamburger and fries, and she ordered, 15 minutes after I ordered? And he says, no, I didn't make a mistake. And I says, okay, well, so where's mine? And then, so Jane starts eating maybe 15 minutes after she gets hers, maybe about half an hour after she's gotten her burger and fries. I ask again, well, where's mine? So the guy leaves the counter and goes back to, I guess, the kitchen, and comes back with a burger that's frozen, a frozen beef patty between 2 buns. I ask him, well, what's up with this? This meat is frozen. He says to me, we do not serve niggers here. So that was my first experience with blatant racism, which kind of made me understand why people were looking at us in the store, looking at us, staring at us while we were walking down the street. It's, like I said, it was my first experience in Texas with blatant racism. And
can I ask, when you heard those words came out of that man's mouth, what were you feeling?
I was shocked. I felt like I felt mistreated. I didn't really understand it at the time. And I looked at Jane. I was like, what? And she just looked at me and she says, I think we should leave. I grew up in Seattle, never experienced racism, or if I did, I was not aware of it. The school I went to, I was usually the only black person in the class. I went to a school on the other side of town. They had a busing program going on. And so instead of going to Garfield, which was the school in the immediate area the high school in the immediate area that I grew up in, I went to Chief South High School out in West Seattle. So I ended up being usually the only black person in the class, but everybody got along. Everybody treated me nicely. The only class that I wasn't the only black in was the African American choir, where we designed our own outfits and we did African music. But all the choir of 80, I was the only black. The neighborhood I grew up in was very diverse. We had maybe 5 families, black families, and the rest of the families on the block were white. But everybody got along. We all socialized together, go to each other's churches, and visit each other in our homes, and play together as kids, and never any racism like on that level. I didn't even know what racism was. As a matter of fact, when I moved here to California, after living in Minnesota for 6 years, people would say things to me that, oh, that was racist what just happened. Well, I guess not racist. That's all in your head. There ain't no racism. Everybody's equal. And it wasn't until I went to Texas and experienced that my eyes were open. And then when we were down there for about a week, when we came back home to California after being in Texas with Cecil, then that's when I started checking out things. And then I noticed how black people, when they were crossing each other on the street, white folks crossing, black folks would lower their heads and their eyes and not look the white person in the eye. Or they would move over, and they could be in a direct path and another person, be a white person coming towards them. If that white person made a beeline over to their side of the street, they would just move on over and let that person have the right of way. I noticed all kinds of subtle racism that I never picked up on before that Texas incident. So racism is alive and well. And
when did the story take place? What year?
In Texas, this was the early 80s. I hadn't been at Glide very long, and I was one of the lead vocalists in the choir, and Cecil took the choir down. I might have been 82, 83.
Have you been back to Texas since that time?
No.
Thank you for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add this. If you're black and your ancestors were slaves, and you run into this little confrontation where white people are walking towards you, please do not lower your head and lower your eyes, because you're like giving up your power. And it just gives them permission to treat you like you're unworthy. Keep your head up. Walk. Stand your ground. Let them continue in the path that they were in. If they're on that left side of the street, let them keep on walking on that side. Don't give up. Don't move over. Just stand your ground. And even if you have to stand there and say, look, you were on the other side of the sidewalk. Because there was a law that passed after the slaves were set free, where the black folks had to step into the gutter when a white person walked in their direction, and you could not look the person in the eye. You had to keep your head lower as a respect or whatever. But if you did not do that, you could go to jail. If you did not step into the gutter and let them have the whole walkway, you could go to jail. Those days are over. You're not going to go to jail if you say to that person, look, you was on that side of the street, I'm on this side of the street, you just stay on that side of the street and I'm walking down this way. Everything's cool. Okay, that's what I got to say. Keep your head up and keep walking. Stand your ground.
So, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.